the reality is 1 in 4 women and I think 1 in 16 men are victims of domestic abuse. And because it's something that is more predominantly suffered by women than men, it's something that as a team we would consider in the building of the product as a risk that we need to offer some kind of protection to our policyholders.
The past couple of decades has seen the world of insurance undergo many dramatic changes. But perhaps one of the most significant of these has been about the very people who make up the industry. Often perceived as male-dominated and stuffy, insurance in all its stripes has seen a steady march of progress towards something that more resembles its diverse customer bases. But make no mistake, this hasn't happened by accident. A few determined figures have succeeded in shaking up the industry as founders and executives, bringing fresh perspectives alongside vital representation. But what does a more diverse insurance industry offer customers in practical terms? What lessons can be learned from opening up to previously underrepresented groups? And what are the challenges that tomorrow's industry leaders will have to overcome? My name's Jack, and you're listening to Battleface Uncharted, a podcast brought to you by Battleface Travel Insurance. We speak to some of the travel industry's leading figures to discover the trends that you need to know about. When talking about the changing face of the insurance industry, few people are more qualified than Sam White, founder and CEO of Stella Insurance, an Australian business that's unapologetically built by women for women. Sam started her first company aged only 24, amid an industry that looked very different to how it does today. She's full of insights into how insurance has changed and what still needs to be done. Battleface partnered with Stella Insurance in 2023 to allow its customers to seamlessly customise their travel insurance coverage according to their specific needs, destinations, and planned activities. To hear more from Sam, check out her guest co-host appearances on BBC Radio 4's Toast, or tune into her very own podcast, Human Business with Sam White, which we'll include a link to in the podcast description. So, Sam, give us an idea of how the insurance industry looked when you were first starting out.
What, aside from the horse and carriages and... it was a very long time ago. Look, I actually started out in claims, so not directly in insurance. I worked for a motor claims business, and it was unbelievably male dominated. And I was going out and seeing insurance brokers who, like, I honestly can't recall going to see a broker that was female on my field sales trips. So yeah, very, very sort of relationship based, very old school, and very sort of manual processes and manual information exchange, I would say.
Got you. I mean, how have things changed then? And you know, do you think they've changed enough?
Have things changed? So things have changed. Have they changed enough? I have to say absolutely not. We still have a big problem in the insurance industry attracting diverse talent. And I talk about this a lot. I think that there's so much more that we could do to make the industry more appealing to different sections of society. We've done a pretty terrible job of marketing ourselves and presenting ourselves for all of the fabulous things that the industry does do, and all of the areas that we could evoke social change and opportunity. I think that we unfortunately have got caught in very much a sort of, this is the way that we've always done things and this is how we present ourselves, and we are a little bit locked at the moment, I believe.
Right. Okay. Well, look, Sam, let me play kind of devil's advocate for a moment then. I mean, someone could say, well, what does it matter how diverse or representative the insurance industry is? Surely the customer ends up with the same product or the same levels of service. How would you respond to that?
That absolutely they will end up with the same product and the same levels of service if we don't get the diversity in. People tend to build from, which is totally understandable, from their own perspectives. So when they're thinking about product design, when they're thinking about the way that they engage with customers, they'll do so from a standpoint of building things that work for them. And unless we get diversity in the industry, we won't get a diversity of thought, and we won't start thinking about how we can build products that solve problems for today's society and today's risk profiles, as opposed to the historical issues that we've had.
I mean, that sounds to me like the perfect segue then into Stella. I mean, do you want to tell me a little bit about, how that company came about, what problems it was solving, why there was a need for a female-centric cover?
Yeah, look, I mean, I have been in the industry for 20 odd years, and have often been the only woman around a table. And I sort of started to think, is it possible that my experience of the industry is going to be translated into the experience our customers have? So will they feel like they're engaging with something that understands and reflects their needs and desires? And so Stella was simply, coming from a perspective of, could we make financial services more female friendly? And by that, we were looking at the product design. So what are we actually insuring? What are we covering? And is it covering the needs of, in this case, women? How are we communicating with them? Who are we partnering with? What kind of marketing messages are going out to the customers, and are we having conversations with them about things that are of interest and relevant to their lives and their daily experiences, as opposed to just a generic insurance engagement? So we started from a position of not assuming that we knew, and so research was really key. Before we even launched the business, we went out to thousands of women and just asked them what their experience of insurance was, what they liked, what they didn't like, and where improvements could be made. And we built from the ground level up, from that perspective, and looking at things like, some of the stuff was simple. The contents cover in cars, for instance, was woefully inadequate in comparison to what most women tend to carry around more expensive possessions, and they required further cover. There was a lack of cover for things, still today, women probably are the primary caregivers of children, and they tend to be sort of lumping around the accoutrements that go with that, the prams and the baby car seats, etc. And so adding in additional cover for that as well. But on a deeper level, we also wanted to make a commitment to a cause that's close to the team's heart in supporting victims of domestic abuse. And we give $5 from every policy, motor policy that we sell to Women and Girls Emergency Centre. And we're in the process of designing a very specific domestic abuse crisis insurance for policyholders that we're looking to embed in every policy that we sell.
Got you. I mean, yeah, that's certainly what struck me about looking at Stella's cover. I mean, it seemed very fresh and very new, but really these are, I guess quite obvious things. And when you have an insurance company which is, female led, designed for women, you're going to pick up on these aspects that maybe have been overlooked in the past. The complications around pregnancy, childcare, domestic violence. How many of these can you kind of directly attribute to the fact that you're looking at this problem from a different perspective?
I mean, all of it really, and to your point, we're not reinventing the wheel here. What we're doing isn't incredibly complex or difficult. It is just leaning in and asking ourselves to look from our customers' perspective at the cover that has traditionally been offered. When we talk about, so on the travel policy, for instance, we obviously put additional cover in if the policy holders are a victim of domestic abuse. And of course, you would love that not to be needed. But the reality is 1 in 4 women and I think 1 in 16 men are victims of domestic abuse. And because it's something that is more predominantly suffered by women than men, it's something that as a team we would consider in the building of the product as a risk that we need to offer some kind of protection to our policyholders on. But it is simply a case of looking at things from that slightly different perspective, just being, stood in the room from a different angle and looking at product design differently.
Got you. How do you think that awareness of insurance has grown more generally in the Australian market? I mean, specifically amongst groups that may have been excluded by their needs, or their needs weren't being met previously?
Look, I think there's a way to go yet. I think that in Australia, as in the UK, there's still quite a negative perspective on insurance, and there's still trust issues that need to be resolved. And I think that in more disenfranchised parts of society, that problem's compounded. We know that one of the big issues facing the insurance industry at the moment, as an example, is actually perversely micro-segmentation. So we are, because we have access to data, we are able more clearly to identify the risks that we do want to insure, that we think are good quality risks, and exclude the risks that we don't. And of course, the problem with that is that large swathes of society will be losing cover in entirety. And I think one of the jobs of insurers is to think much more holistically. That the whole purpose of insurance in the initial instance was so that the premiums of the many could protect the claims of the few. The idea that a group of people could come together, put money in a pot so that if one of them was vulnerable, they would have protection. And we are losing that in a variety of different ways at the moment, and it is impacting certain sections of society more than others, and therefore it really is important, I think, that brands like Stella and battleface that are challenger brands and are coming through the market really do take that challenge on and look at other ways of solving the problem. And we all accept that it has to be commercial and it has to work, but there are ways of providing cover for people that at least assists them in a crisis situation, even if you can't offer a complete resolution to the problem.
Got you. And I guess that sort of loops back around really to representation, doesn't it? In terms of, having an industry that is diverse, is going to be kind of looking at these issues from various perspectives and not just a single mono perspective.
Yes, exactly.
Sam, Stella partnered with Battleface last year, and I'd be interested to hear from your perspective, what that brought to Stella's customers.
Yeah, look, I mean, we're so excited about the partnership with battleface, not least of all because there's such a great cultural alignment between the two teams. And I think we're all accepting of the kinds of problems that we want to solve together. But being able to work with a travel partner that really engaged with the process of the redesign. I mean, we spoke to a number of potential travel partners before we decided to move forward with battleface, and I'm not just saying that because I'm doing this podcast with you guys, but the attitude was so refreshing. Instead of sort of, this is what we've got, take it or leave it, there was a genuine excitement around building the product with the kind of features that we talk about, and providing that sort of much more bespoke product for our customers.
Fantastic. Sam, finally then, there will be, I guess, lots of ambitious future executives and founders out there listening, hopefully, especially those maybe who come from, currently underrepresented backgrounds. What advice would you give for breaking into insurance or the insurtech world?
Don't let the bastards drag you down. No, my advice is the insurance industry needs you. Don't be intimidated or put off by any of the preconceptions about the industry. It's a fantastic industry. There are loads of opportunities. There are lots of things that need changing, and that will only be changed with the support of fresh blood and new founders and people that are genuinely excited to make a difference.
You've been listening to Battleface Uncharted, brought to you by Battleface Travel Insurance.